She walked into the courtroom like she owned it. 9 years old. Designer sneakers squeaking against polished marble. iPad clutched in one hand, a half-eaten bag of chips in the other. When Judge Frank Caprio asked her to put away her electronics and show respect, she rolled her eyes and said, "My daddy says I don't have to listen to anyone but him." But what this spoiled little girl didn't know was that her parking ticket case would expose years of enabling behavior that endangered lives. And when a wheelchair rolled into that courtroom, when she saw exactly who she'd hurt, those chips would drop to the floor, and she'd learn the hardest lesson of her young life. Before we show you exactly what happened in that courtroom, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button because we're racing toward 1 million subscribers, and 95% of you still haven't subscribed to Judge Stories. If this case about entitled children, parental failures, and why respect isn't optional makes you believe that some kids need reality checks before it's too late, leave a comment below. Because what happens next will show you why Judge Caprio is called the fairest judge in America. Providence Municipal Court, Friday afternoon, March 8th, 2:15 p.m. The bailiff called the next case. Westbrook, Penelope. Citation number 2025-12892. Parking violation, handicapped zone without permit, Riverside Elementary School. A murmur rippled through the gallery. Someone parking in a handicapped spot at an elementary school. That never went well in Judge Caprio's courtroom. The doors opened. First came a woman in her early 40s, wearing aggressive athleisure, Lululemon leggings, Canada Goose jacket despite it being 65 degrees outside, Balenciaga sunglasses pushed up on perfectly highlighted hair, diamond tennis bracelet, Hermes Birkin bag worth more than most people's monthly rent. This was Catherine Westbrook, 42, former sorority president, current stay-at-home mother, and self-appointed queen of the Riverside Elementary PTA. Behind her, skipping rather than walking, came her daughter, Penelope Rose Westbrook, age 9. Golden Goose sneakers, $200 a pair. Janie and Jack dress with coordinating headband, a miniature Louis Vuitton crossbody bag, limited edition, probably $800. She carried an iPad Pro in a glittery case and was actively munching on organic cheese puffs, leaving orange dust everywhere. Catherine approached the podium with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Penelope didn't approach. She plopped down in the front row, pulled out her iPad, and started watching something, with the volume on. The sound of a children's cartoon echoed through the courtroom. Judge Caprio looked up from his paperwork. His expression was patient, but the slight tightening around his eyes said he'd already assessed the situation. "Good afternoon. Are you Catherine Westbrook?" "I am." Catherine's tone was clipped, annoyed, like this was interrupting her very important day. "And is that young lady with you?" "That's my daughter, Penelope. She's why I'm here." Judge Caprio gestured toward Penelope, who was completely oblivious to courtroom decorum. "Miss Westbrook, I'm going to need your daughter to turn off that device." Catherine waved dismissively. "Oh, she'll be fine. She gets anxious without her shows. We'll be quick anyway, right? This is just a parking ticket." The judge's tone shifted, still calm but with steel underneath. "Ma'am, this is a court of law. Everyone present is required to show appropriate respect. Please have your daughter turn off the iPad." Catherine sighed dramatically. She turned to Penelope. "Penny, turn it off for a minute." Penelope looked up and said loudly, "No, I'm watching something." The gallery stirred. An elderly man in the back shook his head slowly. Catherine turned back with a smile that wasn't actually apologetic. "She's very strong-willed. It's easier to just let her finish her show." Judge Caprio leaned forward. "Mrs. Westbrook, I'm not asking. I'm instructing. Your daughter will turn off that device now, or you will both be asked to leave, and the citation will be upheld with additional fines for contempt. The smile vanished. Excuse me? Are you threatening my child? I'm enforcing courtroom rules that apply to everyone equally. Catherine marched over to Penelope and tried to take the iPad. Penelope pulled away. No, I said I'm watching something. Penelope Rose Westbrook, give me that iPad right now. Make me. What happened next shocked everyone. Catherine Westbrook, in full view of the judge, bailiff, court reporter, and 30 people in the gallery, reached into her designer purse, pulled out a phone, and held it out to her daughter. Here, watch it on my phone instead. Just be quiet. Judge Caprio stood. When Judge Caprio stands, people in Providence know something serious is about to happen. The courtroom went absolutely silent. Even Penelope looked up, suddenly sensing a change. Mrs. Westbrook. His voice was quiet but carried like thunder. Did you just give your daughter another device after I explicitly instructed you to have her stop? Catherine bristled. My parenting choices are none of your concern. If she needs her shows to stay calm, then that's what she gets. What she needs? Judge Caprio said, his voice measured but firm, is to learn that rules apply to her. Now, for the last time, all devices will be turned off, or you will be held in contempt. Do I make myself clear? Catherine stared at him. The kind of standoff that occurs when someone accustomed to getting their way meets immovable authority. Finally, she snatched both devices from Penelope, who immediately began to wail. Not cry. Wail, the kind of theatrical, ear-piercing shriek designed to manipulate adults into compliance. I hate you. I want my iPad. Daddy said I could watch it. This is boring. Judge Caprio waited. He didn't react. He simply waited, his expression neutral, until the wailing subsided into hiccuping sobs and then sullen silence. Are we finished? He asked calmly. Penelope glared at him with pure 9-year-old fury. You're mean. I've been called worse. There was the slightest hint of warmth in his voice. Now, let's discuss why you're here. He opened the file. Mrs. Westbrook, this citation indicates that your vehicle, a Range Rover registered in your name, was parked in a handicapped parking space at Riverside Elementary School on March 1st. The vehicle remained there for approximately 45 minutes. Is this accurate? Catherine shifted. Technically, yes. But there's context. I was running late for a PTA meeting. The regular spots were full. I was only going to be a few minutes, but the meeting ran long. It's not like I planned to stay there. You were in a handicapped space for 45 minutes. Yes, but no one needed it. If someone had needed it, I would have moved. How would you know if someone needed it if you were inside the building? Catherine's face flushed. This is ridiculous. It's a $250 fine, right? I'll pay it. Can we please just be done? Judge Caprio closed the file slowly. He looked at her for a long moment. Mrs. Westbrook, before I issue my ruling, I'd like to show you something. He turned his computer monitor toward the gallery. On the screen, security footage from the school parking lot appeared. 8:42 a.m. Catherine's white Range Rover pulled into the handicapped space closest to the entrance. Catherine got out, checked her phone, and walked inside. The space sat empty behind her vehicle. 8:47 a.m. Another car pulled up, an older Honda with a wheelchair symbol on the license plate. The driver, a woman, circled the lot looking for a handicapped space. There were none. She ended up parking at the far end of the lot. The cameras showed her getting out, opening the back door and struggling to help a young boy, maybe 7 years old, wearing leg braces, out of the car. It started raining. The woman had no umbrella. She tried to shield the boy as they made their slow, painful way across the parking lot toward the school entrance. The boy fell once. His mother helped him up, both of them soaked now. The whole journey took 8 minutes. The courtroom was silent. Catherine's face had gone white. Judge Caprio let the footage end, then turned the monitor back. That woman is Sarah Chen. The boy is her son, Michael. He has cerebral palsy. That handicapped space you occupied? It wasn't just convenient for you. It was necessary for them. I didn't know, Catherine started. You didn't need to know. That's why those spaces exist. For people who need them, not for people running late to PTA meetings. Catherine's voice was small now. I'm sorry, I really am. I'll pay the fine. Just then, the courtroom doors opened again. A woman wheeled a young boy in. He was about 7, wearing leg braces, his wheelchair navigating carefully down the aisle. Penelope's head snapped up. She stared at the boy, then at her mother, then back at the judge. For the first time since entering the courtroom, she was completely silent. Your Honor, the woman said, I'm Sarah Chen. This is my son, Michael. You asked us to come. Judge Caprio nodded. Thank you for being here, Mrs. Chen. Would you mind telling the court what happened on March 1st? Sarah wheeled Michael to the front. Her voice was steady but carried emotion underneath. It was raining that morning. Michael had physical therapy at school, so we couldn't be late. When we got there, the handicapped spaces were all taken, except one that had a Range Rover in it. No handicapped placard, no disability plates, just someone who decided that space was for them. She paused, looking at Catherine. I had to park at the far end of the lot. Michael can't walk long distances without severe pain. I tried to carry him, but he's getting too big for that, and I'm not strong enough anymore. He insisted on walking. Sarah's voice cracked slightly. He fell in the rain, scraped his hands on the asphalt. By the time we got inside, he was soaking wet and crying from pain. He missed his therapy session because we had to go to the nurse's office to clean him up and calm him down. Michael, sitting in his wheelchair, looked at Penelope. Not with anger, with quiet courage that somehow made the silence in the courtroom even heavier. I'm sorry, Catherine whispered. I'm so sorry. But Judge Caprio wasn't finished. Mrs. Westbrook, what makes this particularly concerning is that this isn't your first violation. Catherine's head snapped up. What? The judge pulled out additional documents. Your vehicle has been cited 3 times in the past 18 months for parking in handicapped spaces. The first 2 citations were dismissed after your husband's attorney intervened. The third was reduced to a warning. He looked directly at Catherine. This is a pattern, and patterns don't change without consequences. Before Catherine could respond, the courtroom doors burst open again. What the hell is going on here? A man in an expensive suit stormed down the aisle. Tall, silver-haired, carrying himself with aggressive confidence. Your Honor, I'm Richard Westbrook, Penelope's father, and I want to know who gave you the right to traumatize my daughter. Judge Caprio's expression didn't change. Mr. Westbrook, you're disrupting my courtroom. Your courtroom? This is a parking ticket, and you're treating my wife and child like criminals. I've got my attorney on the phone right now. Mr. Westbrook, the judge said, his voice cutting through the bluster like a blade. Sit down, or I'll have the bailiff escort you out and charge you with contempt. Richard Westbrook wasn't used to being told what to do. He stood there, face red, jaw clenched. "Now," Judge Caprio said. Something in that single word made Richard move. He sat in the gallery, still fuming, but silent. Judge Caprio turned back to Catherine. "Mrs. Westbrook, your daughter's entitled behavior came from somewhere. I'm starting to see where." Richard started to stand again. The bailiff moved toward him. Richard sat back down. The judge continued, addressing both parents now. "Here's what concerns me. This isn't just about parking. When I look at this case, I see a family that believes rules are for other people, that wealth and status exempt you from basic courtesy and respect." He gestured to Penelope, who was staring at Michael with something like horror dawning in her eyes. "Your daughter brought an iPad into my courtroom and refused to turn it off. When told to respect court rules, she screamed that her daddy says she doesn't have to listen to anyone. Mr. Westbrook, is that what you taught her?" Richard's jaw worked. "I taught her to be confident, to not let people push her around. You taught her that her wants matter more than other people's needs," Judge Caprio corrected. "There's a difference." He looked at the case file again. "And there's more. Mrs. Westbrook, in addition to your parking violations, I have here a formal complaint filed by Penelope's teacher. Your daughter has been bullying a classmate with type 1 diabetes, making fun of her for having to check her blood sugar, calling her needle girl." Catherine's face went pale. I didn't know about that. The school sent 3 emails and called twice. You never responded. I must have missed them. I'm very busy with what?" Judge Caprio's voice was gentle now, but pointed. "With PTA committees? With being too important to follow parking rules or respond to your daughter's school?" Silence. The judge leaned back. "Here's my ruling. Mrs. Westbrook, you're fined $1,000 for this violation. Given your pattern of behavior, this is the maximum fine I can legally impose for a first-time enforcement." Catherine nodded, tears forming. "But I'm not finished. You're going to perform 40 hours of community service at the Rhode Island Center for Independent Living, helping people with disabilities navigate daily challenges. You're going to see firsthand what life is like for the people you've inconvenienced." "I don't have time," Catherine started. "You'll make time, and your daughter will accompany you for 20 of those hours. Age-appropriate volunteering, helping her understand why these spaces matter and why bullying children with disabilities is unacceptable." Penelope's face crumpled. "I don't want to. That sounds boring." Judge Caprio looked at her, his expression kind but firm. "It probably will be boring sometimes, but it will also be important. You'll meet people like Michael. You'll learn that the world doesn't revolve around what you want to watch on your iPad." He turned to Michael. "Michael, thank you for being so brave and coming here today. I'm sorry this happened to you." Michael spoke for the first time, his voice soft. "It's okay. I just want people to understand." Penelope was staring at him, really seeing him for the first time. Her lower lip trembled. Judge Caprio addressed the parents again. "Mr. and Mrs. Westbrook, your daughter is 9 years old. She didn't develop this attitude in a vacuum. She learned it from watching you. I'm giving you all a chance to unlearn it. Don't waste this opportunity." Richard Westbrook stood slowly. "Your Honor, I apologize for my behavior. You're right. We've made mistakes." It was the first genuine thing anyone in that family had said all day. "If you refuse the community service," the judge continued, "the fine increases to $5,000, and you'll face criminal charges for the pattern of violations. Your choice. Catherine looked at her daughter, then at Michael, then at the judge. We'll do it, all of it. Excellent. You'll report to the Center for Independent Living within 7 days. You'll bring documentation of completed hours to this court in 6 weeks for review. Judge Caprio turned to Penelope one last time. Young lady, I know you think I'm being mean right now, but I promise you, when you finish these 20 hours, you're going to understand something important. Being kind matters more than being comfortable. Other people's needs sometimes come before your wants. Can you try to remember that? Penelope didn't answer. She just stared at her shoes, tears sliding down her cheeks. I'll take that as a maybe. That's okay. You don't have to understand now. You will later. The gavel fell. 6 weeks later, Catherine and Penelope Westbrook returned to Judge Caprio's courtroom. The change was visible before they spoke. Catherine wore simple jeans and a sweater, no designer logos, no ostentatious jewelry. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked real. Penelope held her mother's hand and walked quietly. No iPad, no devices, no chips. Her eyes were different, less entitled, more aware. They approached the bench with documentation of their completed hours. Judge Caprio reviewed the paperwork. How did it go? Catherine spoke first, her voice soft and genuine. It was eye-opening, Your Honor. We met so many incredible people. People dealing with challenges I'd never even thought about. Stairs I take for granted being impossible barriers. Parking spots I saw as convenient being absolute necessities. She paused. We met Michael Chen and his mother again. I apologized properly. We've become friends. Michael is an amazing kid. He taught Penelope about his wheelchair and his therapy. They play games together now. Judge Caprio turned to Penelope. And you? What did you learn? Penelope looked up at him. Her voice was small but clear. I learned I was being a brat. Michael can't walk and I was mad about not watching my iPad. That's really stupid. I'm sorry I was rude to you. The judge smiled. The first real smile he'd shown them. That's a very grown-up thing to say. It takes courage to admit when you're wrong. I'm proud of you. He stamped the documentation. Community service obligation fulfilled. The fine is reduced to $750 in recognition of your compliance and genuine attitude change. Case closed. As they turned to leave, Penelope stopped and looked back. Judge Caprio? Yes, Penelope? Thank you for being mean to me. Mom says you weren't really being mean, you were being honest. I needed that. The judge's eyes softened. You're welcome. Now go be kind to people. You'll be amazed how good it feels. 3 months later, Judge Caprio received a letter from Riverside Elementary School. Penelope Westbrook had started a disability awareness club, teaching other students about accessibility and inclusion. She'd raised money to install an automatic door opener at the school entrance. She'd become friends with several students with disabilities and was known for standing up to bullies who targeted them. The principal wrote, "Whatever you said to this child, it worked. She's become one of our most compassionate students. Thank you for seeing potential in her that needed the right nudge to emerge." Judge Caprio kept that letter in his desk drawer. On hard days, he'd read it. A reminder that sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that stick. That 9-year-old children aren't lost causes. That entitled behavior can be unlearned. He also kept a photo Catherine Westbrook had sent him. Penelope and Michael Chen at a school basketball game. Penelope was pushing Michael's wheelchair, both kids laughing, faces lit with genuine joy. On the back, Catherine had written, "Thank you for teaching us both what really matters." The case of Penelope Westbrook became legendary at Providence Municipal Court, not because of the fine or the community service, but because of what it represented. Judge Caprio had seen a spoiled child headed down a troubling path and had intervened before it was too late. He'd held parents accountable for the values they were teaching. He'd proven that consequences, when applied with wisdom and compassion, can transform rather than just punish. Penelope Westbrook walked into court a spoiled brat and walked out on the path to becoming a compassionate human. But it took a judge brave enough to say no. If you've witnessed entitled behavior in kids today, or if you remember someone who gave you the reality check you needed, subscribe to Judge Stories for more cases where consequences create character. Tell us in comments, what's the most entitled thing you've seen a child do? Did their parents enable it? What would you have done as the judge? And if you're a parent worried about raising spoiled kids in a world of instant gratification, share this video. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is teach a child that no exists. The earlier we teach empathy, the better humans we create. That's not just good parenting. That's good citizenship. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.